Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, and I am joined by Jillian DeCoursey. She's going to be fighting in the co-main event on Friday night for CFFC for the CFFC Strawweight Championship against Elise Reed. Jillian, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling pretty good.
I just saw that you had your COVID test. Is that your first COVID test you've taken?
Yeah, that's actually the first one. I've been pretty lucky.
How was it? Because to me, that COVID test is my nightmare.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be way worse than it was. Like I didn't feel like my brain got poked, so that's a win.
It's definitely a positive that you feel like you have everything intact. But I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, obviously you're just right now kind of chilling, hanging out, waiting for what's the next step for you right now, actually?
I mean, I'm pretty lucky this time. I don't really have to cut weight since I'm fighting a weight class up. So
Yeah.
I'm about to eat some more food. It's kind of nice to not be sitting here being tortured and getting to kind of just chill out, eat, and hydrate and feel good.
Yeah, so let's talk about this fight. How did it come about? Because it kind of came out of nowhere, and as you said, you're fighting a weight class up. Fighting for the strawweight title when you're naturally an atom weight.
Right. Well, when I had seen Elise won the title in August, she's fought at atom weight previously. She's not that much bigger than me, so we decided like, hey, you know what? Let's try and like see if we can get this fight, make it happen. And it's a title fight, so pretty much right after she won it, we put the feelers out there, letting CFFC know that we were interested, and then about 2 months ago or so, it kind of got planned out, and it was like, all right, let's do this. Let's make it happen.
What do you think of Elise's performance in her title win? Because to me, it's one of the more controversial decisions of the year, but she got the job done regardless and is going in the champion.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was it was a good fight. They both had their moments. Jasmine had her moments. Elise had her moments. And they both look good. I've been in Jasmine's position where, you get the fight to the ground and you don't land strikes on the ground. I think that's really what cost her the fight. Because I've been there and I've gotten takedowns and, I've learned from those and know that, hey, all right, when you get the fight to the ground, in order to win those judges over, you have to throw strikes. So that's something I really, kind of, you take away from watching other people's fights and is learning from your own experiences. But it was definitely a close fight. But.
Yeah, well, she's going in the champion, and you're trying to take the title from her on Friday.
Yep.
What do you anticipate from Elise? Because she hasn't had too many pro fights. Had an extensive amateur career, but only I believe this is her third pro fight.
Yeah, this is her third pro fight. I think she's going to come in really hungry. She's the champion, so she has that, behind her. And as an amateur, I went into most of my amateur fights as as the champion, and it's a different pressure coming in, because the last thing you want to do is lose your title, right? When you're coming in and you're trying to take it from someone, it's different pressure. You're not going to lose something. You only have things to gain. So I definitely think the pressure's on her coming into this. And then when you look at stats, people are kind of they're not respecting me the same, and they're counting me out a little bit. So I love that underdog feeling.
Yeah, that's kind of odd because, I mean, you have the more pro fight experience. You fought in Invicta countless amount of times. Your second fight for CFFC. I mean, you kind of liked it to play spoiler because Elise is kind of the hometown girl, and
Yeah.
that's got to be fun for you.
Oh, I love that. That's like I thrive on that. Actually, in my last two fights, as far as people picking, I was like the underdog in both of them. And we know how that went. I won both those fights in, I think pretty impressive fashion, and, dominated both of them, pretty from start to finish. So that's something I actually prefer. I like people to count me out, and I get to prove them wrong.
It's always the best when you get to shove it in those people's faces
Yep.
afterwards. But
and I make sure I let them know too.
Yeah, for sure. This is your second time fighting for CFFC, Jillian. What's the experience like second time around? It's a little different in an era of pandemic going on, but how's CFFC treating you?
They treated me really well last time. Last time I actually got to fight for their troop their event for Fight for the Troops. So we were on a military base, so it was a lot different experience than I've ever had before. But it was like honestly, I think to date, the most amazing experience I've had as a fighter. And, they do treat their fighters really well. So I'm pretty lucky that I get to fight for, two pretty awesome promotions between CFFC and Invicta FC that really look out for their fighters and take care of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially this year, CFFC's really kind of risen up as one of the up and coming, feeder leagues to the major players like Bellator and UFC. So that's got to be good. And, winning a title on Friday would be an added bonus for you as well. But what's it like fighting in the era of, a pandemic? You haven't fought since the pandemic was a thing. This is a whole new experience for you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely it's way different stressors, right? It's like, hey, I don't have to stress making weight this time, but we're just gonna add in all the COVID stuff and trying to figure out training, COVID tests, and all that to stress you out instead. And then trying to get medicals done in the middle of a pandemic is definitely a little bit more of a challenge too, because it's just there's limited availability with doctors, and just getting all that done was definitely a little bit of a headache, but we're here now, so ready to go.
Yeah, that's the one thing a lot of people don't take in is the medicals, like the important paperwork you need so you can actually get in there with the pandemic. That's definitely thrown a wrench for it. I know it's a little different here in Canada, but it's been like 10 times delayed for fighters like that. So thankfully, everything's worked out for you. But how'd training camp go for you, Jillian? Because you're training, I believe, are you still at Long Island MMA?
Yeah, I'm at I train at Long Island MMA and also train at Ring Sport Muay Thai. So I mean, for me, I'm based in New York. We unfortunately, we kind of one of my gyms, Ring Sport, is in Queens, so it's within the city. So those restrictions are a lot more. And we've been going back and forth. Sorry, the phone is like ringing, so I just.
It's fine. It's all good.
We're in. They'll go good. Could call back later. So it's definitely been a challenge. This is the most unique fight camp I've ever had, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, because it got to be way more specific to exactly my needs, because I didn't have a bunch of teammates fighting at the same time. So it was literally just, hey, all right, we're going to bring people in for you to train with. We're going to do this around you. So it was actually kind of nice in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, everyone likes to, have their eyes on them. And I think that's kind of, I guess, been one of the benefits of the training camps now is it's only for, fighters specifically, because all the gyms are pretty much closed all throughout North America. So that's where, and Long Island MMA has had a pretty successful year. Like, Brian Keller's had a good year. I know Chris Wade's waiting to get back in there for PFL. And, there's a lot of talent at that gym. So that's got to give you confidence heading into this fight on Friday.
Oh, absolutely. And, I've actually been really lucky because like every once in a while I get to cross train with Caitlin Chakugian. And she actually, because of the pandemic, and she's based out of Long Island, she's actually been spending a good amount of her time at Long Island MMA, and been, working like one-on-one with me, pretty much throughout this whole camp.
Well, that's got to be an added bonus for you, training with the girl that, a couple fights ago just fought for, a title in the UFC and has just come back with a big win. So an added bonus for you as well, Jillian.
Absolutely.
Well, Jillian, I'm going to get you out of here in a kind of a fun question here, as you're a big tweeter for MMA, and you're always out there tweeting during the fights. You're part of the MMA Twitter community. I mean, what's that experience been for you getting to interact with the fans? Because a lot of fighters sometimes want to keep their distance, but you're totally open to interacting with fans.
Yeah, so honestly, I kind of sucked at that for most of my career. So an idea that my manager had, he was like, hey, you're always watching fights, you're always doing these things. Why don't you just start tweeting during the fights, and that can build up your interactions, build up your popularity, and and then in turn that helps kind of get fights and just keep you interacting. So that's kind of how it started. We had no intention that, hey, when I started tweeting during fights, that it was gonna blow up the way it has. But it's actually kind of really cool. And this is really the first fight I've had that I've been very, very active on Twitter. So just the support and just, everything has been so amazing. So I'm definitely going to keep at it.
How many followers have you gained since you started at it to now? I know you have 3,000 right now, but what's the growth been since the beginning?
Like I would say, like since like the beginning of like quarantine, when I really started kind of heading at it, it's been about like 1,500 in like the last couple months. So we'll keep growing it and get to those K marks.
Wow, I didn't even know it was at the beginning of quarantine. So like
Yeah,
since March you've had that gain. So that's pretty I mean, social media is a totally different aspect, but it's important to get your fans out there
yeah.
and that's pretty impressive. So, good on you. You're using your social media platform properly, Jillian.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not showing these all these glamorous pics, right?
For sure. Hey, and we can see your
Glamorous.
yeah, and we can see your high level of judging fights. So maybe you got a career as a judge in the future.
Yeah, hey, you know what? Eventually, we're not able to fight forever, right? So we have to have backup plans.
For sure. Well, Jillian, before I let you out of here, plug yourself out there on social media so you can gain some new followers. And best of luck on Friday night against Elise Reed for the CFFC strawweight title.
Thank you very much. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lionheart Jill. Facebook decided to shut down my fighter page. You could just follow my regular page, and that's Jillian DeCoursey. But definitely give me a follow, especially if you like some humor and like some knowledge on fight nights. Follow me on Twitter.
Why Facebook shut down your fighter page?
We've tried a bunch of times and they keep shutting me down. So, we just gave up. They keep telling me I'm impersonating myself. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, Facebook can have its troubles, but thankfully there's other platforms out there to follow you. And once again, Jillian, best of luck on Friday night against Elise Reed. And, MMA Twitter will be rooting you on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again, Jillian.
All right.